The electric blue glow of 3 alien moons bathed the Academy courtyard as Marcus Miller slipped through the shadows, his footsteps silent against the polished stone of Zenith Academy, the most prestigious interspecies educational institution in the galaxy. His small human eyes, constantly mocked by his classmates, narrowed as he spotted the familiar gathering of senior xenobiology students. "Look who it is," Drax, a 7-foot Andorian with 6 glowing eyes arranged in a perfect hexagon across his ridged forehead, called out loudly enough for everyone to hear. "The tiny-eyed human thinks he can pass the wilderness survival course." Laughter erupted from the group, a mix of chittering, rumbling, and high-pitched sounds from a dozen different alien species. Marcus kept walking, his jaw tight. Tomorrow was the final exam for Wilderness Survival 403, and he'd studied harder than anyone. What his classmates didn't understand was that human eyes, though small and limited to a narrow light spectrum, had evolved for something special on Earth, tracking prey through dense forest. "The human will be the first to fail," said Vex, a cephalian whose translucent skin pulsed with bioluminescent patterns. "Those microscopic visual organs can barely see what's right in front of them." Marcus stopped and turned to face the group. "See you all tomorrow. May the best survivor win." Drax's upper eyes narrowed. "The best will win, human, and it won't be you." The next morning, Marcus stood with his 19 classmates at the edge of the ebony forest, a dense wilderness covering the southern hemisphere of Zenith Prime. Professor Clax, a veteran Mantodian explorer with scarred exoskeleton and missing limbs from countless expeditions, hovered above them on his gravity platform. "Your final exam is simple." Clax's translator device converted his clicks and whistles to standard galactic. "Survive 3 days in the ebony forest and track the shadow claw I released last night. The first to locate the predator and signal its position passes the course with highest honors. The rest of you, if you survive, will be graded on your tracking methodology." Murmurs spread through the group. The shadow claw was one of the deadliest apex predators in the known galaxy, a creature that hunted in total darkness and had killed hundreds of experienced explorers. "One more thing," Clax added. "The Ebony Forest will experience a rare astronomical event beginning tonight. All 3 moons will be in eclipse for approximately 48 hours, total darkness." The alien students buzzed with excitement. Most species represented at the Academy had evolved exceptional night vision, seeing across multiple spectrums. "Perfect for us, terrible for the human," Drax whispered loudly. "Begin," Clax announced, and the students scattered into the dense forest. Marcus moved deliberately, conserving energy as he studied the forest floor. The alien vegetation was strange to him, but tracking principles remained the same across all ecosystems. He looked for broken stems, displaced soil, signs of recent movement, while his classmates rushed ahead, using their advanced vision to scan for heat signatures and movement. By nightfall, Marcus had established a small camp in a defensive position between 2 massive tree-like structures. He ate a nutrient bar from his pack and listened to the sounds of the forest, cataloging each one in his mind. The darkness came suddenly as the first moon slipped into eclipse, then the second. Finally, as the third moon disappeared, the forest plunged into absolute blackness, unlike anything Marcus had ever experienced. Even Earth's darkest nights had starlight or faint ambient glow. This was complete, impenetrable dark. He heard panicked shouts in the distance. Without their vision advantages, some of his classmates were struggling. Even their superior eyes needed some light to function. Marcus closed his eyes. They were useless now anyway. Instead, he focused on his other senses, the ones humans had relied on for thousands of years before technology. The slight change in air pressure when something large moved nearby. The different sounds of footfalls on various ground surfaces. The smell of disturbed soil and vegetation. He moved silently through the darkness, counting steps, building a mental map. When he heard a soft splash ahead, he knew one of his classmates had found water. He approached carefully. "Who's there?" came a frightened voice. It was Lyra, a luminary whose skin normally glowed brightly enough to read by. Now, in the absolute darkness, even her bioluminescence was barely a faint outline. "It's Marcus," he whispered. "The human?" She sounded surprised. "How are you moving in this darkness? I can barely see my own hands." "I'm not using my eyes," he replied. "They're not much help now anyway." "But how?" Before Marcus could answer, a deep growl vibrated through the forest. Both of them froze. "Shadowclaw," Lyra whispered, her voice trembling. "It's hunting." A scream echoed from somewhere to their left, followed by the sound of something heavy crashing through vegetation. "We need to move," Marcus said, reaching out to find Lyra's arm. "I can guide you." "You can't see any better than I can," she protested. "No, but I can track using other senses. Humans evolved as persistence hunters. We followed prey for days until they collapsed from exhaustion." "That's primitive," Lyra said, but she gripped his arm tightly. They moved slowly through the darkness. Marcus guided them away from the sounds of panic and toward higher ground. 2 more screams rang out during the night, followed by the Academy's emergency transport signals, students giving up, calling for evacuation. By morning, though, no light penetrated the eclipse. 7 of the 20 students had abandoned the exam. The rest had formed small groups for protection, using what technologies they had to navigate the darkness. Marcus and Lyra found 4 other students huddled together, Drax, Vex, and 2 others named Core and Ziv. "The humans survived the night," Drax said, his voice lacking its usual mockery. "I'm surprised." "We need to work together," Marcus said. "The Shadowclaw is picking us off one by one." "And what can you contribute with those tiny eyes?" Vex asked, but without the earlier derision. "In this darkness?" "The same as you," Marcus replied, "but I can track it by sound and smell. I've been following its movements all night." Drax's body stiffened. "You've been tracking the Shadowclaw in total darkness?" "Yes. It's moving in a circular pattern, approximately 3 kilometers in diameter. It has a den near the center based on its movement patterns." The aliens looked at each other, their expressions unreadable in the darkness. "How can you know this?" Core asked, his serpentine voice skeptical. "Because it's what predators do," Marcus explained. "They establish territory and hunt in patterns. This one returns to the same area every few hours. I've been timing its movements." "If the human is correct," Drax said slowly, "we could set up an ambush near this den." "No," Marcus shook his head. "We don't need to ambush it. We just need to locate it and signal. That's the assignment." "And how do you propose we find this den in total darkness?" Ziv asked. "Follow me." For the next several hours, Marcus led the group through the forest, stopping frequently to listen and smell the air. The aliens followed silently, their earlier mockery replaced by cautious respect. When they heard another scream and emergency transport signal in the distance, Lyra whispered, "That's half the class gone now." "The Shadowclaw is getting bolder," Marcus said. "It's learning our weaknesses." "What's yours?" Drax asked suddenly. Marcus was quiet for a moment. "I'm slower than all of you, and physically weaker. If it catches me, I can't fight it off like you might." "Yet you seem the least afraid," Vex observed. "Fear doesn't help in survival situations," Marcus replied. "Clear thinking does." A sudden crash ahead made them all freeze. The sound of powerful limbs moving through undergrowth came toward them, fast. "Run," Marcus hissed, pulling Lyra with him to the right. The group scattered. In the confusion, Marcus lost track of the others. He and Lyra pressed themselves against the rough bark of a massive tree, listening to the Shadowclaw move past them, hunting. "It didn't see us," Lyra whispered when the sounds faded. "No, but it will circle back," Marcus said. "We need to keep moving." "The others?" They'll either find us or make their way back to the extraction point. Our priority is completing the assignment. They continued through the forest, Marcus using all his senses to navigate. By his calculation, they were getting close to the center of the Shadowclaw's territory. "Stop," he whispered suddenly, pulling Lyra down. "Listen." In the distance, they heard a rhythmic sound breathing, deep, powerful breaths of a large creature at rest. "Is that—" Lyra began. "Yes, the Shadowclaw. We've found its den." They crept forward slowly, carefully. The breathing grew louder. Marcus could smell the musky odor of the predator now, along with the metallic scent of blood. "We should signal now," Lyra suggested. "Not yet. We need to confirm visual identification." "Visual?" Lyra hissed. "In this darkness?" "Trust me." They edged closer until Marcus could feel the heat radiating from the creature. It was massive based on the sound of its breathing, at least 3 times his size. He reached into his pack and removed a small device. When he clicked it, a narrow beam of infrared light shot out, invisible to most species, including the Shadowclaw, but detectable by the specialized goggles he now placed over his eyes. Through the green-tinted view of the goggles, he saw it. The Shadowclaw, a massive 6-limbed predator with a ridge of spines along its back and enormous fanged jaws. It was curled around the remains of what appeared to be one of their classmates. Lyra gasped beside him. Her species could see infrared naturally. Marcus quickly clicked his emergency transmitter 3 times, then twice the signal to Professor Clax that they had located the target. The Shadowclaw's head snapped up at the sound, its eyeless face turning directly toward them. "Run!" Marcus shouted, grabbing Lyra's arm. They crashed through the underbrush as the massive predator uncoiled and launched itself after them. Marcus pulled Lyra behind a cluster of thick trees, then pushed her down into a narrow crevice between 2 rocks. "Stay there," he whispered. "I'll lead it away." "Marcus, no!" But he was already moving, deliberately making noise as he ran in the opposite direction. The Shadowclaw followed, its powerful limbs crushing everything in its path. Marcus ran blindly, his infrared goggles allowing him limited vision, but not enough to navigate quickly. He tripped over a root and went down hard, pain shooting through his ankle. Scrambling up, he limped forward, knowing the predator was seconds behind him. Suddenly, lights flashed overhead the Academy's extraction ships. Professor Clax had received their signal. But the Shadowclaw was still coming. Marcus could hear it, feel the vibrations of its massive body through the ground. His injured ankle gave way, and he fell against a tree, turning to face the direction of the approaching predator. Through his goggles, he saw it burst into the clearing, its maw open and dripping. It charged directly at him. A blinding flash of light erupted between them as a stun net deployed from above, wrapping around the Shadowclaw. It thrashed and roared, but the net tightened, immobilizing it. Professor Clax descended on his gravity platform, surrounded by Academy security forces with weapons trained on the captured predator. "Excellent work, Mr. Miller," Clax said, his translator crackling. "First to locate the target, and you led it away from your fellow student at great personal risk." Marcus nodded, wincing as he put weight on his injured ankle. "Medical assistance for the human," Clax ordered, and 2 medics approached with a hover stretcher. As they lifted him onto the stretcher, Marcus saw the other surviving students emerging from the forest, guided by the lights of the extraction ships. Drax approached, all 6 of his eyes focused on Marcus. "You tracked the most dangerous predator in the galaxy, in complete darkness, with those tiny eyes," he said, his voice filled with newfound respect. "Not with my eyes," Marcus replied. "That's what none of you understood. Humans don't rely only on vision like many species do. We use all our senses together." Drax nodded slowly. "A valuable lesson. One I won't forget." The extraction ship's medical bay was brightly lit and sterile. The doctor, a Halidian with 4 arms, worked quickly to treat Marcus's sprained ankle. You're fortunate, she said. No broken bones, just a moderate sprain. You'll be walking normally in a few days. Lyra entered the medical bay, her skin glowing with its natural luminescence now that they were away from the eclipsed moons. You saved my life, she said simply. Why risk yourself for me? Marcus shrugged. It's what humans do. We protect our group. Even though we mocked you, called your eyes inadequate. Different doesn't mean inadequate, Marcus said. Every species has strengths and weaknesses. The key is understanding them. Professor Clax floated into the medical bay, his exoskeleton gleaming under the bright lights. Mr. Miller, you've passed Wilderness Survival 403 with the highest marks in Academy history, he announced. Your tracking methodology was exceptional. Thank you, Professor. I've been teaching this course for 47 galactic cycles, Clax continued, and I've never seen anyone track a shadow claw in total darkness. How did you do it? Marcus smiled. Human evolution. On Earth, we weren't the strongest or fastest predators. We didn't have natural weapons like claws or fangs. What we had was endurance and problem solving. We learned to track by reading subtle signs, broken twigs, disturbed soil, patterns of movement. But in darkness just means relying more on hearing, smell, and touch. The forest speaks if you know how to listen. Clax's antennae twitched with interest. Would you be willing to teach these methods to other students? Of course, Marcus nodded. 2 days later, Marcus stood before an assembly hall filled with students and faculty. His ankle was still bandaged but healing well. On the large display behind him was a map of the ebony forest with the shadow claw's movement patterns highlighted. What we learned during the survival exam, he began, was that different evolutionary paths create different strengths. My classmates laughed at my small eyes because by their standards, human vision is limited. He noticed Drax and the others from his group sitting in the front row, watching intently. But humans evolved on a planet where we needed to track prey over long distances, often with limited visibility. We developed multiple ways to perceive our environment. Marcus played a recording of the shadow claw's movements through the forest. Listen to the pattern of footfalls, the weight distribution, the rhythm of movement. These tell you the size, speed, and even the hunting intention of the predator. The assembly was silent, absorbing his words. In the darkness of the eclipsed moons, most species lost their primary advantage vision. But that darkness equalized our capabilities in many ways, forcing everyone to rely on senses they normally don't prioritize. Drax stood up. I would like to apologize publicly to Marcus Miller. I mocked his human eyes, believing them inferior to our own. I was wrong. In the darkness, when my superior vision was useless, he navigated with ease and saved multiple lives. Murmurs spread through the assembly. No apology needed, Marcus replied. We all learned something valuable. The Academy exists to bring different species together so we can learn from each other's strengths. Professor Clax hovered forward. And that is why I'm pleased to announce a new course for next semester, Multisensory Tracking and Perception, to be co-taught by Professor Miller and myself. Surprised, Marcus turned to Clax. Professor? You've earned it, Clax said. No one has ever demonstrated such skill in the final exam. The assembly erupted in applause. As Marcus looked out over the crowd of diverse alien faces, he felt a sense of accomplishment. His small human eyes had been the source of ridicule, but now they were looking at him with newfound respect. After the assembly, Marcus was approached by a group of first-year students, a mix of species, including one human. Is it true you tracked a shadow claw using just your hearing and smell? One asked, eyes wide with admiration. And touch, Marcus added, feeling the vibrations through the ground, sensing changes in air pressure. But how did you know where to go in total darkness? Another questioned. Mental mapping. Humans have been navigating difficult terrain for thousands of years. We developed techniques for remembering landscapes and creating internal maps. The human student, a young woman named Nora Blake, stepped forward. "They've been telling me my eyes are too small since I arrived, that I'll never succeed in xenobiology because I can't see all the spectrums they can." Marcus smiled at her. "Tell them that's like saying you can't be a musician because you don't have enough fingers. Different doesn't mean less capable, it just means you might find a different way to succeed." Nora straightened her shoulders. "I will." In the following weeks, Marcus's ankle healed completely. His new status as an instructor in training gave him access to faculty areas of the academy, including the advanced research laboratories. He was reviewing curriculum materials when Lyra found him. "The famous human tracker," she said, her skin glowing softly in greeting. "I wanted to thank you again. The medical team said 3 more students were hospitalized after encounters with the Shadow Claw. None as lucky as we were." "How are they?" "Recovering, but with serious injuries. Drax told everyone how you led us through the forest when none of us could see." Marcus nodded. "It was a team effort in the end." "Perhaps," Lyra said, "but it was your skills that made the difference." She hesitated. "I have a request. My homeworld, Luminara, has been experiencing problems with an invasive predator species. Our normal methods of detection aren't working, because these creatures absorb light, even our natural bioluminescence." "Making them invisible to your people," Marcus concluded. "Yes, I was hoping perhaps you could teach me how to track the way you do, without relying on sight." Marcus considered this. "It would take time. These aren't skills you learn overnight." "I'm willing to put in the work," she said earnestly. "Then let's start tomorrow. The academy has training facilities we can use." Over the next month, Marcus worked with not only Lyra, but several other students who had requested similar training. They practiced in simulated environments with various limitations, imposed no vision, no hearing, restricted movement. Professor Clax observed one of these sessions, watching as Marcus guided blindfolded students through an obstacle course using only verbal cues about what to listen and feel for. "Remarkable progress," Clax commented afterward. "You've turned what many considered a human weakness into the foundation of a new tracking methodology." "Not new," Marcus corrected. "Very old, actually. These techniques have been used by human hunters for thousands of years." "Yet revolutionary in interspecies education," Clax insisted. "The Academy's board has approved a full expedition to Luminara next semester to address their predator problem. They've requested you lead it." Marcus was stunned. "Lead? I'm still a student." "A student who has demonstrated exceptional ability. The mission will serve as your final project before graduation." The news spread quickly through the academy. Marcus found himself approached by students who had previously avoided him, now eager to learn his tracking techniques. Even Drax became one of his most dedicated pupils, working tirelessly to develop his non-visual senses. "On my world," Drax explained during one training session, "we evolved to rely almost exclusively on our vision. 6 eyes gave us such an advantage that our other senses atrophied. But now I see that was a vulnerability." "Every evolutionary path has trade-offs," Marcus replied. "The key is adaptability." The day before the Luminara expedition was set to depart, the Academy held a formal reception. Marcus, dressed in the traditional blue and silver of an Academy expedition leader, found himself surrounded by faculty and students offering good wishes. Professor Clax presented him with a specialized tracking kit developed by the Academy's technology department. "Tools to enhance your natural abilities," Clax explained, "though I suspect you could manage with nothing but your senses." "Tools are part of human evolution too," Marcus said, accepting the kit gratefully. "We've always used technology to extend our capabilities." As the reception continued, Marcus stepped outside onto a balcony overlooking the Academy grounds. The 3 moons of Zenith Prime shone brightly overhead, fully visible now that the eclipse had long passed. He heard footsteps and turned to see Nora Blake, the first-year human student, approaching. "Nervous about tomorrow?" she asked. "A little," he admitted. "It's a big responsibility." "You've changed things here," she said. "When I arrived, being human was seen as a disadvantage. Now, students are signing up for courses on human tracking techniques." Marcus smiled. "Evolution is interesting that way. What seems like a limitation in one environment becomes an advantage in another." "Will you come back after Luminara?" she asked. "To teach more classes?" "That's the plan. Professor Clax has offered me a permanent position on the xenobiology faculty." Nora looked relieved. "Good. We need more humans teaching here, showing that different doesn't mean less." The next morning, Marcus boarded the expedition ship with his team, 12 students and 3 faculty members, including Lyra and Drax. As the ship lifted off from the Academy landing pad, he looked out the viewport at the gathered crowd below. So many different species, all with their own unique adaptations and capabilities, all with something to teach and something to learn. "Course set for Luminara," the pilot announced. "Estimated arrival in 27 hours. Lyra sat beside Marcus, her skin glowing with excitement. "My people will be grateful for your help." "I'm just sharing what humans have known for generations," Marcus replied, "that sometimes the smallest eyes see what others miss." Drax, securing equipment nearby, added, "And sometimes those with the most eyes see the least." As the ship accelerated into hyperspace, Marcus thought about how far he had come since those first days at the Academy, when alien students had laughed at his small human eyes. Now those same students had seen him track a deadly predator through pitch darkness, using senses they had never fully appreciated. Different didn't mean less capable. Sometimes it meant finding another way to succeed, a human way. And in the vast diversity of the galaxy, that was a lesson worth teaching.